It can take 6 months or more to grow a good pecan crop that's ready for harvest. And during that time, pecan farmers have a lot of pests to contend with. Not only that, they have diseases they have to fight, such as pecan scab, powdery mildew. And today I'd like to show you some insect monitoring tools that farmers are starting to use around Oklahoma. Now, the traditional method was to use the cone trap, and the idea behind it is to scout for pecan weevil. And pecan weevil is the unseen pest of the pecan world that really can wreak havoc on a crop. If you've ever picked up a nut in the fall and there's a hole in the side, that's the exit hole for the young of a pecan weevil. The adult pecan weevils are down in the soil, and when we get a good drenching rain in late summer, usually around early September, the ground is softened and they'll come out of the ground, and typically pecan farmers have put these screen wire cone traps around their orchards. They may put 8 to 10 under a tree, and the insects will come out, and typically they want to fly up. Their habit is to go up into the tree for early feeding, and they'll be trapped at the top in this glass jar. Well, usually it took a lot of labor and a lot of effort to place these around an orchard. You wouldn't put one under every tree, but you'd put one under your more weevily trees. Well, since then, farmers have gone to what they call the tedder's trap, and this is a new trap that we've introduced to growers. It's been used across the southeast for growing pecans, and the idea is to fool the pecan weevil into thinking this is a pecan tree trunk, and you only have to put one under a tree. Behind me, this tree has been whitewashed to blend in with the landscape, and when a weevil first comes out of the ground, visually it's looking for any dark object to climb up. It's thinking, I'm in a pecan orchard, I need to climb up the trunk, and that's where I'll find good feeding and a site to lay my eggs. So we whitewash the trunks of pecans, and we place these dark brown tedder's traps around that are made of plywood. We have a trap on the top that's actually used in the cotton weevil monitoring trade, but it can be adapted for pecan weevils. Now, the pecan weevil, again, is a small pest about the size of a ladybug, maybe a little more oblong. It's cocoa brown and has the characteristic snout or proboscis coming off the front. When they climb up here, again, they climb up into this trap, and a farmer can go along and just check inside to see if there are any weevils, and that will help them time their sprays. Now, with pecan weevil, as with many insects, they tend to have a certain time of year that they come out, and it's based on the development of the pecan itself. I have some nuts here that I pulled off the trees that by all looks look like fairly healthy nuts. And pecan weevil causes two kinds of damage. When it first climbs up into the tree, it will feed on the nuts using that snout on the front, and it typically feeds on it during the water stage. This is just a bunch of liquid inside. You can see it pour out. And right now, inside the pecan, you don't see the kernel that you eat in the fall. It just has a thin, papery membrane around a hollow area that's filled with liquid. Well, soon that will be in the dough stage, and that's where the weevil causes the second phase of its damage, where it will use, on its tail end, the females will deposit eggs inside the dough stage of the kernel, and they'll hatch out as larvae and feed, and then make that characteristic exit hole closer to harvest time, and you pick up a lot of hollow nuts at that point. Well, this is just one tool that growers are using to try to time their sprays effectively. Another thing that OSU's been very involved with in helping pecan growers use fewer pesticides is in getting growers to establish clovers in their orchard. And we have several kinds of clovers planted here at the OSU Research Station in Bixby with the intent of attracting beneficial insects. The clovers are sown in the fall. They grow through the winter, but not a great deal. In the spring, they grow up larger. They attract a lot of beneficial insects that feed on the aphids that live in the clover. When the clover dies down in the summer and its specific aphid population dies down, then those beneficial insects fly up to the pecan trees and feed on the yellow aphids and other aphids that are specific to pecans. And so this is just one more tool that we're trying to encourage growers to use fewer pesticides and hopefully get an even better crop of Oklahoma pecans.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. You can also find more recent videos on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.